electronics was refreshing to go back to instrumental music. So when Quasar asked me to write the quartet, I was thinking in instrumental terms initially, and I was interested in aspects of notation and how one can write time in a way that's both precise and imprecise. And so I started writing on paper with a pencil, which I hadn't done for some time. So most of the musical ideas developed from an instrumental point of view, which is quite rare for me. I usually do most of the electronics and instrumental music at the same time. So that was the first stage of the piece, and it's, I guess, the only piece that I've done that thinks of electronics as something that comes after the instrumental part. Having said that, it was always in the back of my mind that eventually electronics would be part of it. So certain ideas in the piece and the harmonic language that's structured along the multiphonics and some of the temporal aspects of the piece, I knew would eventually make it into the electronics, but it's only when we're putting the piece together in the final stages of the project that the electronics actually can be heard. Yeah, the workshop is really important because that's the first time I get a sense of musically how the piece is going to work from a performance point of view. And so the very tiny details of timing and how the quartet is approaching the notation only comes clear at that initial stage. So it was important for me to work in the state that I could still experiment with how the notation relates to the musicians and how the notation relates to the electronics. The workshop allows me to do some experimenting that I normally wouldn't have the opportunity to do, and to obviously develop a much closer interaction with the quartet, which is, I think, fundamental for this kind of music. There's a lot in the way that this particular piece is written that's provocative in terms of how the notation is written and how the instrumental parts are written. So it only makes sense to take pleasure of that provocation if you work with musicians closely. If you just send the score over the post, it's not quite the same experience. So the workshop gives me that kind of feedback and allows the piece then to move on to a second stage.
And what about this provocative notation?
The provocative notation is to do with a way of notating music that's not so much to do with the actual final sound result, but I like to think of notation as one of the production tools in music. So the notation is something that's not always fixed, it's something that's not always flexible, and one of the aspects of collaborating with the quartet I've enjoyed the most is to see the musicians scribble on the score and annotating the score and creating a score that's much richer than what initially was there. So initially I think of the notation as something that's there to be interpreted and to challenge situations, at the same time giving a sense of form in the music, but leaving quite a lot open for interpretation and